Hey everybody, welcome back to the K2N Online Paddle School. We're back here on YouTube, and this week we're talking about not letting your hands get in the way of a successful paddle stroke. When we take paddle strokes, it is very easy to let your hands dictate the stroke. As we are taking strokes, we are trying to reach forward and get the paddle in front of us, and it's very easy to allow these hands to elongate to the front to try and achieve that. This is most prevalent when we're looking at single blade paddling, and on the opposite side of the spectrum, which we'll also talk about, is in double blade paddling, where the hands do too little work when it comes to the paddle stroke. Having your hands get in the way of the stroke is a simple terminology that means that the hand is pulling the other joints out of position. So the position of my hands is going to dictate the position of my elbows and my shoulders. This can be accounted for going up as well as accounted for coming down. The position of my hands and where I place them can get in the way of a powerful and leverage powered stroke. Each of the joints within the kinetic chain all interact with each other. So my hand position dictates my elbow position, which also dictates my shoulder position. And my shoulder influences my hip and my knee and my foot. So this hand being out of position one way or the other can now move all of the connecting joints out of position as well. In both single blade and double blade paddling, in the context in which we're talking about, we're also in the seated position, which further limits how we can move the rest of our body. We're standing or kneeling, your hips and legs can move through a really large range of motion. But in the seated position, we really can't move too much. We can only pivot around to try and move these joints. This further amplifies how important this hand position is because of the limitation of the lower body and the hips. In its inherent movement, we rely on this hand position to dictate how the rest of the body can move. Starting with the single blade, when my hands are in the way of a successful stroke, what happens is I elongate out too much. When this top hand reaches too far forward, the connecting elbow also comes forward and the shoulder also comes forward. And now all of my joints with my lower body are starting to get out of position, reaching and following this top hand. When we talk about rotation, one half of the body has to go forward and the other half of the body has to go back to create this rotational force. If both sides of the body come forward, there's no way that I can adequately rotate anymore. I can only act and function by coming straight up and down. There is some power here, but it limits your full potential because you're not able to engage your lower body as effectively unless you rotate like so. But if my top hand goes forward, it is in the way of a powerful stroke because it is now impossible to pull my elbow and shoulder back. If my elbow and shoulder come back, the hand has to come with it. So my hand position being here dictates that I am in poor position and my hands are in the way of that powerful stroke. What we're looking to do is get the hands out of the way. We're making sure that this top hand comes back towards us. That way this elbow can come back and the top shoulder can come back and I can create this rotation. The other byproduct is I now have very good positive blade angle with the paddle here. If my top hand comes over the top, I start to lose this and have a neutral angle. My top hand is further back than my bottom hand. I can now create this powerful leverage point as well as use my shoulders and the rest of my body. Because my hand position is specifically placed further back, the elbow and the shoulder can move further back as well. So within the canoe stroke, it is very common that we overuse our joints and we overuse the hands and they get in the way of a powerful stroke. Positioning the hands properly allows you to move the rest of your body, and this sets you up for more powerful leverages as you complete a stroke. A great drill to break this down is having 3 commands for one stroke. So if you're in a solo boat, this is very easy to go through, but if you're in a team boat, you need different commands to try and get everybody working together. So in this case, the first command would be turning the hips. If you think about setting the paddle first, what'll happen is your hands will move independently of your body to try and get into this position. I do have positive blade angle. My hands are in position. And as I start stretching out, I do have reach. But thinking about the hand gets in the way of how your body can move. Having the first command being turning the body allows you the opportunity to turn your hips and shoulders and don't think about the hand. The second command is now reaching, where we're going to set the hands in place. We want to make sure that the top hand is in a position where the shoulder doesn't come forward. If I reach too far with my top hand, I ruin the first step of turning because my shoulder gets out of position. So we turn, and all of this is going to freeze frame. Then we start to reach with the paddle. Then the third command is go. We take one paddle stroke from here. Having this top shoulder back is going to power this top hand as we drive down throughout the rest of the stroke. The three commands we would have: turn, reach, and go. Turn, reach, and go. This is a great drill to incorporate as a warm-up, as well as just breaking down and moving very slowly, meticulously, and segmenting your motions. Having a distinct pause in how you're moving and when you're moving allows you the opportunity to identify, is this shoulder in position, is this hip in position, is this knee in position, and allow you to go through all of this and think about it. Try to do all of this fluid. Maybe this shoulder didn't get in position, or this hip, or this knee, and it's easy to rush. And when we start to rush the motion, the thing that moves the fastest is our hands coming up. It's very easy for both hands to get into position here to pose for the front of the stroke, but now my other joints are not in position to be as successful as they potentially can be. Looking at the Surfski, the opposite is true, right? The top hand in a canoe stroke wants to typically come very high, and this is going to pull the joints out of position. Within a Surfski kayak two-bladed stroke, these hands are more apt to do not enough. So what that means is, as we're setting up the stroke, these hands are just going to be too close to the body. So now my hands are in the way of a potentially good stroke because I am not creating enough leverages to be successful with the stroke. It would be like seeing somebody throw a ball where they look something like this, going back and forth, having the elbow too close and the hand not moving enough. This is not the basis of a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. If I were to turn and lift my hand and set up something like this, the ability to create energy and throw a ball more powerfully dramatically increases simply because of space. These leverages that I'm creating here create more power. Can it be done? Sure, but theoretically you would have to be twice as strong to make the same power in this position as somebody that is making force from this position simply from leverage. It's like using a wrench. When you use a very small wrench to try and get torque, it is not as effective as using a breaker bar, which is way longer trying to get leverage on this pivot point. The motion that we create creates the length on this potential wrench, and we want to try and use the longest breaker bar that we can. The opposite extreme, when the hands move too much, the paddle is working against you and your leverages start working against you. There is a distinct middle position that we're looking for. 90 degree with the young arm, 90 degree with the hip to the elbow. These are positions that we're looking for. Break here or break here means that you're going to lose some potential power. So looking at the motion with the hands in the way of the stroke by not being in good enough position and being too low, it is simple enough to create the space to get your hands out of the way to start the stroke each time. Try to create all of these specific leverages and get the hands out of the way for a powerful stroke. And the Surfski is the exact same. Having a pause between strokes is one of the simplest ways to identify what are your leverages before taking the stroke. The number one reason that people try to circumvent pause strokes is a balance demand, which is one of the reasons that having a boat that is above your pay grade is not a great thing, because it limits how fluidly and how meticulously you can move. If you cannot take a stroke and pause in the air and think about your motion without almost falling in, it means the boat is outside of your skill level. The magic of seeing somebody within an elite boat is that they can also move freely within the vessel. If they're fighting stability, they're fighting their forward progress. So taking a stroke and pausing in the air allows you the opportunity to figure out, where is this elbow? Where is this hand? Where are my knees? Where are my hips? Where is the blade in conjunction with the water? And when do I start the stroke to go through? Then as I set up the next stroke, I can make sure this hand is here, elbow is here, the shoulder is in the position that I want, my hips are in position, then take the next stroke and pause and take the stroke and pause and take the stroke. Having that pause allows you to think about all these things. If I just go through the motion like so, the elbows are gonna drop in and I'm just paddling around, not thinking about it, falling asleep, and there is no progress to your technique unless we take the time to think about the motion. Excellent. Thank you guys so much for checking out the video. Make sure you take the time to pause and segment your motion to make sure that your leverages are working with you at the highest potential. Big shout out to all of our YouTube members, which their names are going to appear here. If you guys have not subscribed yet, don't forget to do that. We have these technique videos every Friday, and we have an ongoing vlog series every Wednesday. If there are any topics specifically that you would like to see us cover in great detail, be sure to leave a comment or send us a message, and we can make sure to make a full video here on YouTube for you. Thank you all so much for the support, and we'll see you next week for the next paddle tip video.